Good morning. It's my pleasure to be with you this morning to give you a brief overview of an upcoming renewal initiative called the Transportation Special Purpose Local Option Sales Tax, in this case, TSPLOST number 2. The current TSPLOST expires in November of 25. In order to renew that tax, one of the dates that we have to put it on the ballot is this November. Today, we're going to go over a few facets of the tax, what it's achieved, and what the new initiatives are. At this point, let's go ahead and cut over to the PowerPoint that will be prepared for you this morning. TSPLOST 2 is a 6-year tax that came in several years ago. It is the renewal of an existing tax and not a new tax. The effective date of the new tax, if passed on the referendum, would be October 1st of 2025. It is a 6-year tax with an anticipated revenue of $76 million over that 6-year period. Very important is that this tax, unlike local option sales tax and special purpose sales tax, can only be used to fund transportation purposes. Let's take a look at what those are. Those include roads and bridges, sidewalks and bicycle paths, acquisition of right-of-ways associated with those improvements, relocation of utilities, drainage improvements, and patching, leveling, milling, and widening of roadways. This is a detailed chart that shows the 30% what we call off-the-top projects. These are mandatory projects as required by the law that governments are required to set aside that 30% on. The governments in the county come together and decide what these major projects will be. We're going to look at a few of these projects in detail. This is the Charles Frazier Boulevard South Main Street widening project. This slide notes it being done in a phase 1 and a phase 2. Actually, because of some bidding difficulties that were done and finding contractors, it's all going to be completed at one time. So the proceeds will be used from the TSPLOST to be able to pay for these improvements, extending from MacArthur Drive all the way out to Ralph Quarterman. This is phase 3 of the Charles Frazier Boulevard project, which takes it from Ralph Quarterman all the way out to Casey Drive. You may or may not be aware there are significant improvements planned along that corridor, and this would help facilitate traffic in that area. These are projected improvements to the EG miles or Highway 196 corridor. They include certain signalizations along there in order to facilitate traffic flow. One at Pineland Avenue and one at Griffin Park. These improvements are along Airport Road and Hardeman Road. You may be familiar with the Family Dollar store just off of Highway 84. This is down the road towards the Liberty County Jail from there. There is a large housing project that's projected to come in off of Hardeman Drive. Part of it would tie back in eventually to 84, but you'll also see an increased traffic flow along Hardeman Drive to Shaw Road. These improvements, even without that, are needed due to the increased traffic load in that intersection. So this is a proposed signal for Shaw Road. The next project involves a 4-laning of a corridor down at exit 76 at Midway. Part of these will be improvements of that 4-lane corridor from its connector to the I-95 interchange all the way down to Brigden Road. The other part that you see on this is also seed money for federal grants to enhance the bridge. The bridge is currently a 2-lane structure that needs to be increased to 4 lanes, either 4 lanes on that bridge or another side-by-side 2-lane to increase flow there and help safety. This is another project that's along EG miles in 196. This involves the implementation of a roundabout next to the Hinesville Public Works facility. It would also help with traffic flow along Deal Street to increase safety in that area. The next project involves the realignment of Wallace Martin Drive at its intersection of Tremaine. It adds a new road section that would tie back into Flemington Boulevard, which is the intersection where the new Publix and Chick-fil-A are going to go. This would increase safety and help the flow in that area. The next one involves moving traffic from Patriots Trail over to the roundabout next to Walmart at the East General Stewart Way section. Right-of-way already exists there. This is a project that was in the long-range plan for the transportation sector, and it would get that project complete. Patriots Trail handles most of the traffic going to James Brown Park, which is the primary park for all of our recreation activities. In association with this, it's also important to note that the Highway 84 corridor, which is adjacent to this route, over the next 3 years will be improved and have a median put in. At that time, patrons coming from James Brown Park down Patriots Trail to Highway 84 will not be able to make a left turn. They will only be able to make a right turn out of that intersection. That's why this is imperative to put into place prior to that time so that we can get that traffic flow from Patriots Trail to General Stewart and back to a signalized intersection at Highway 84. The next are a couple of safety improvements and a maintenance project. The first is a safety improvement at the National Guard Armory at Stafford Park. Currently, there is no turnout lane there. People wanting to turn off of Highway 84 into Stafford Park have to queue in the travel lane. This would allow a decel lane to be built along Highway 84 so that they could safely exit 84 and turn to go into Stafford Park. The other involves roadway rejuvenation at the park I just mentioned, which is James Brown Park in its circumference corridor of roads there. Those roads have not been upgraded since that park was built about 20 years ago. The next project is located actually in the city of Midway. It is an enhancement project to the main corridor strip in Midway, Butler Avenue. This would actually put sidewalks in there and do some corridor widening and enhancement. This is the interstate road that leads to Interstate Paper Mill, or DS Smith as we know it now. It actually is in part of Riceboro and part of Liberty County. It is the only corridor that's there to serve that paper industry. The road in that area has not been upgraded in about 30 years. So this would be a total rejuvenation effort, what we call a mill and an overlay that would grind the pavement in place and then put down a new coarse surface. This is a concept of what we know as the Hinesville Bypass Phase 2. The Hinesville Bypass Phase 1 is actually fixing to go on the street for bid now, and it will go all the way down to Riceboro. This is a shorter cut, if you will, that would tie off of E.B. Cooper to follow a route back over to Highway 196 East. And so it would give what I want to call a mid-range bypass around Hinesville and Waltoville. This is only a concept, and I would urge you please not to focus on the direct alignment of this at this time because of that. This is a rejuvenation of the Bacontown Road section that serves our Public Works Department, our main Public Works Department, down towards the city of Midway. This is a roadway enhancement project for Rogers Pasture Road. This is the only road that serves to handle all of the garbage truck traffic that comes countywide as well as from some other counties to our main transfer station off of Rogers Pasture. This is a sidewalk project inside the city of Allenhurst. Currently, there are sidewalks on both sides of US 84 except for this one sector, and this would put sidewalks in that area. I mentioned the 30% off the top. There's obviously some money that is left after that. So after the main 30% priority projects, the rest of the funds get split among the county and its municipalities. The percentages that are used are similar to the U.S. Census count data that is used also in SPLOST and the other SPLOST that's there. So you see the remaining funds that will be split among those entities. They will then be able to use those monies again for transportation only purposes inside their jurisdictions or partnering among jurisdictions to do larger projects. So what does it look like on the ballot? First, I think it's important to note that the state referendums that come up after your main voting things, the state referendum issues will come up. This is actually a local referendum, so it will be last on your ballot. Please keep looking down your ballot for this. I wish it was easier to read, but it is in the context that it has to be pursuant to Georgia law. So you see it here, simply, shall that 1% sales tax continue to be levied for 6 more years to generate an estimated $76 million for transportation purposes. And then it goes on to say that the jurisdictions do have the opportunity, are not required, to issue debt to fast start any of these projects. I think I want to pause there for a minute and say, in many cases, federal and state government funds become available, and if you have a project already designed, you're able to take advantage of those funds for these larger projects. If you do not put this opportunity to issue debt on the ballot, you cannot borrow funds during the period of the tax for any reason for any of these purposes. So it's better to have it out there in case you need it. Again, not required, but you're not able to go back later and get it approved if it's not on the ballot. I greatly appreciate the opportunity to come to you this morning and explain this. It's unfortunate that we've had to cancel several of our meetings that were scheduled live because of our latest Hurricane Helene here, but we did want to come give you an overview. Please follow our sites to receive information, additional information on this. Early voting does start next week, and we would encourage you to go out and early vote. But please remember, this is not a new tax. 100% of the road projects that have been able to be achieved in Liberty County have used this form of mechanism for funding. Without this form of mechanism, their property taxes would be the only other source of revenue available to match state and federal funds and do local projects. It's imperative that a community like Liberty County utilize all the resources that it can possibly achieve in order to make these very expensive improvements, which have moved for about $1 million a mile 4 years ago to now over $2 million a mile for road course surface improvements. I don't know about you, but I like participation, and I love the folks that travel through here. Instead of letting just our citizens here pay this through property taxes, I would encourage you to consider allowing some others to participate to help us. I appreciate the job you let us do for you, and we stand ready to answer any questions that you might have on this or any other topic. Have a great day.